Hello, everybody. This is Martha Hines with Living the One Light, and I am here with my good friend Barbara Juniper. And today we're going to be talking about probably many themes around the topic of untying the knots that bind us and letting go into our boundless nature. And this is sort of a precursor. This conversation will be sort of a precursor to a workshop that we are going to be holding in October. So we'll say more about that later. But in terms of the general topic that we're feeling called to speak to and to hold space around, I'll just say for myself that over the past month, at least, maybe month and a half, I've been in my own praying, I've been getting this message of the need for us to release the stories over and over and over and over and over again. And last weekend, I held one of my monthly soul wisdom gatherings, and the spirit world told me to have that topic, release the stories, be the topic of last week's gathering. And it was extremely powerful and beautiful, and I think people got a lot out of it. But one of the things that's really key for me, that I also get told in my prayers very repeatedly, is that there are so many of us on the planet, probably you watching this also or experiencing this, that we're essentially midwifing ourselves back into a remembrance of all of who we are as beings of the all that is. And so as we're each midwifing ourselves, many of us also have certain gifts and certain roles and certain wisdom that is part of supporting us all to midwife ourselves, right? So Barbara is absolutely one of these people who has these gifts and these the incredible wisdom to help us in various ways. So Barbara is a sound healer and a spiritual mentor and does many things that I will let her explain. But in this conversation today, and then in this workshop next in October, one of the things that Barbara brings along with her own incredible wisdom is this tool of the sound healing. And again, she'll explain more of this herself, but the sound healing is part of the vibrational medicine that will allow us, even on a body level, to release these stories and quote unquote untie the knots, in our energetic field or in our emotional system, that will allow us to release and let go. So there's so much there. We're going to talk about some of it today. But hello, Barbara. Thank you.
Hello, Martha. It's so wonderful to be here today. And I'd like to start, even before I share about myself and what we're going to talk about, I'd love to just invite people to take a moment and we'll just do a little grounding meditation and help us arrive here, letting go of whatever the day has brought before us. So I invite you to get comfortable in wherever you're sitting, whether you're on a chair, on a couch, if you're lying down listening to this, just take a moment and adjust your posture so that you feel like you can really relax. And just take a moment to sense and feel into your body. Noticing if there's any tension, and just allowing that tension to melt down. And as it melts down, really feel your contact point, whether it's your sits bones, whether it's the back of your legs, whether if you're lying down, it might be your entire back body, but really connect with that sense of being held by the earth. And this incredible, nourishing, holding, embracing energy of the earth that supports us every moment of our life, whether we're sitting, whether we're walking, whether we're sleeping. The earth is supporting us, holding us. And feel that nourishment coming up through the soles of your feet, coming up through your back body if you're lying down. If you're sitting cross-legged on a cushion, feel it coming up through the back of your legs and the base of your spine. And just filling your body with this nourishing, healing balm of earth energy. And know in this moment that there's nothing to do. You can let go of the doing mind. You can give yourself permission to let go of what's come before, to let go of being concerned or planning about what's going to come next. And just let yourself be here in this present moment, meeting yourself with kindness, with gentleness, free from critiquing or judging this present moment. Coming home to yourself, to your beautiful being. And just if it feels right for you, just tuning into your breath, the inflow and the outflow of the breath. You're not trying to make it be any particular way. We're just joining our attention and awareness with this beautiful, miraculous gift of the breath. Slowing down so that our minds and our bodies can synchronize with each other. Often our mind is moving way more quickly than our body. And just feel how this feels to you to slow down. And open to the blessings of this present moment. That this field that we live in, that we are part of, is filled with blessings of the awakened ones, of the present moment, of the goodness and the wisdom and the compassion and the love that are qualities of this field. And to the degree that feels appropriate or right for you, let go into that. And let yourself feel held. And if it feels right again for you as we close out this little meditation, place one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. And just give yourself a self-blessing. Meeting yourself with love, with appreciation for your unique being. With regard. And again, if it feels right, then just wish this for all beings. That all beings can connect with their beauty and their basic goodness, their true essence. Thank you all. And just notice, has anything shifted for you in this moment? It doesn't take long to come into the present moment. Oftentimes we think meditation means long, long, long hours of sitting, and it can be just a flash in a moment. So thank you all for joining me. And I'm really happy to be here today with you, Martha. We've talked about this for a while, and it's just always a delight to be with you. And my name is Barbara Juniper. As Martha said, I am a sound healer and a spiritual mentor. I would say I'm an interspiritual being. I've danced in many different wisdom traditions, and currently the wisdom tradition that has really wrapped its arms around me and that I've been very much participating in for the last 15, almost 20 years is Tibetan Buddhism. But I also have many, many years of studying with a Native American elder, being very close with him and doing ritual with him and ceremony. And prior to that, my first teacher in this lifetime was a mystic Christian woman named Mother Jenny. And I just bow to wisdom in whatever way it shows up. And I'm really happy to be here today. And also to bring in a little taste towards the end of our time together today, we'll bring in a little bit of a meditation that will include sound besides just the sound of my voice. As Martha was saying, that when we think about patterns or habits or behaviors that have become like knots that have limited our access to our beauty and our goodness, sound can be an incredible support for helping open up inner space where those patterns and habits can begin to unwind. And the intention that we carry into any sound healing is like a new seed that we're planting in that open field of space that's been created by the sound. So maybe we'll talk about that a little more later, but I just wanted to thank you all for being here, and thank you, Martha, for inviting me to come.
Of course. The question that's coming to my mind, maybe to start with, if that's okay for you, is I'm curious if you want to explain on your end what brings you to this topic. Why does this feel alive for you? Or it was the title of, untying the knots that bind us, letting go into our boundless nature, that came through you. So do you want to start by explaining a little more where that's coming from?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was, I was helping, I was assisting at a week-long retreat back in August that was through the Buddhist center that I am part of, the Sukhasiddhi Foundation. And as you know, we're multidimensional beings, and we have this physical body, but we also have what's referred to as a subtle body. And of course, in Chinese medicine, you hear of qi, and in Indian or Vedic, you hear prana. In the Tibetan Buddhist, we talk about the winds and the channels. And during this retreat, it happened to be held at a place called Mercy Center in just south of San Francisco. It's a beautiful center of the Sisters of Mercy, who are a Christian arm of the Catholic Church, and they're in the community doing all kinds of amazing service for particularly homeless population and children that maybe are orphaned. And they've just done an amazing job in the community. And during our week-long retreat there, they have a huge retreat center with a lot of different conference rooms. So that was where we were holding our retreat. There was a bookstore there. And this bookstore was open one of the afternoons that we were there. And I walked in and I was looking at the shelf where they had a lot of the icons of Mother Mary and Christ and, little statues. and I saw one. It's like, whoa, who is she and what is she? And I brought her here today to just show you. And maybe many of you already know of her, but this is Mary, the undoer of knots. And I was absolutely taken by her. And I felt like one of the things that we were working on during this retreat, or we were exploring, was this idea of knots in the subtle body are connected to patterns and beliefs in our mind. There's not a separation. And when I read more about this Mary, this ribbon that she's holding represents the ribbon of our life. And the knots in the ribbon are the places where challenges come up for us, whether they're, interrelational challenges or personal challenges, work challenges, whatever it is. These are the knots. These are the places that we struggle. And I just thought, and here she is holding her hands up at the top, helping untie the knots. So I think for me, the synchronicity of seeing her as we were doing these more subtle body practices also was just, it was uncanny, like synchronicities are, right? And it was also a reminder that there are so many beings, such as Mary, such as Jesus, such as Green Tara, such as the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, the angels and the archangels. There's a legion of awakened beings who are here to help us. And we forget that. We think we live in a culture, at least in this Western culture that I have grown up in, is like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, get on with it, do what you need to do, and figure it out, basically on your own, right? And there's kind of something wrong with you if you can't figure it out, right? And to me, I just feel like we need to remember this. I know you and I were speaking right before this, we came on this call about it being autumn. We just crossed over the autumn equinox yesterday. And for me, the autumn equinox is about balance. It's also about, as we enter into the autumn, as we enter into fall, it's about this reviewing and this quality of letting go of what's no longer needed. And part of the untying of the knots is the letting go of what's no longer needed, whether it's something in your physical world, something in your emotional world, some belief that's in your thinking mind. If it's some part of your spiritual path that maybe isn't quite aligning with you anymore, because we're dynamic beings and things change, there is a process right now that we're completely supported by in the natural cycles of Gaia to release and to let go. And so this untying of the knots, it's part of that. It's part of that. Like what in my being wants to release, what wants to unwind and unfurl and let go into this field of love, of unconditional compassion. And it doesn't have to be a tearing. It can be a natural release. It can be like, if we're holding on really tightly, it can be this, how do I open my hands to say and honor whatever it was, because whatever has been there for a purpose, a reason, a teaching, a learning. So it's not like, ugh, you're finally out of my life. It's like, thank you, and I release you now into the cosmic field of life, or into the earth. I mean, another way to release and let go is to put an intention in a stone. You can write things you're letting go of on a piece of paper and wrap a stone with it and gently bury it in the earth. The earth can also receive what we're ready to let go. So yeah, that's what that's what brought that untying the knots that bind you into. And then the whole releasing into the radiance and the brilliance of who we are is the natural outcome of this offering of letting go.
Yes. One of the things, I mean, mostly as I'm hearing you, I just feel more and more and more relaxed. I just feel myself dropping layer after layer, as you know, into my true authentic self. And that's beautiful. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to share a story about one of the most powerful teachings I ever got on letting go was during an incredibly difficult time in my life where a very precious relationship that I had been in for 5 years just suddenly was gone. It was over, and it was really heartbreaking for me, and I was really struggling with how to work with the pain in my body. And it was fall. My thinking is it was either late November or early December. And I think it was early December because as I tell the story, the images are coming back. And so I lived in a little cottage, and I walked out early one morning, and it had been very frosty the night before. It had gotten very cold. And I walked out onto the street, and someone must have been carrying a load of Christmas ornaments, like in their trunk or something. And the trunk must have opened because there on the side of the street, off the actual road, but on the side were all these Christmas ornaments that were covered with frost. And it was very interesting. It's like, okay, this is really interesting. And then I turned around to face my cottage, and I noticed I had a tree. It was a black walnut tree that was outside my house. And the black walnut trees get incredibly beautiful gold color in the fall. They turn this beautiful, rich gold. And I turned around to look at the cottage or look back at the tree, and the leaves were just falling. They were just dropping off. And I thought, oh, there must be a squirrel up there that's scurrying around, right? And there was no wind. There was absolutely no wind. And I thought, well, maybe it's a bird, because I didn't see a squirrel, didn't see a bird. And as I stood there, it was as if it was snowing, these golden leaves, and they were just dropping. It was stunning. It was, and like I said, it was as still could be. There wasn't wind that was blowing. And I'm standing there just receiving this earth teaching on letting go. Because what I realized as I stood there and like, what is happening here? As soon as the sun had come up over the ridge, the rays of the sun were hitting the tree. And because it had gotten so cold the night before, any little sap that had been holding on to that leaf, keeping that leaf attached to the tree, had gone back into the trunk, and the leaves were just naturally releasing.
Wow.
It was just, this is our time. There's no pain. It's time to let go. It's not a struggle. It's just a natural event of the sunshine hitting these leaves. There's nothing to keep us attached to the tree anymore. And it was a rain. It was snowing golden leaves, basically. It was one of the most beautiful teachings on letting go that I've ever experienced. And it's like, oh, it can be like that. It can be like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say something about this before you said that. And now that you've said that, it suddenly clicks for me exactly why the relevance of what I was about to say. So thank you. Yes, the thing that's coming up for me is astrologically what's going on right now in this time. And there's so many things, but one of the big things is that all of last year, 2021, we had 3 different times when Uranus and Saturn exactly squared each other. And starting on September 30th for 2 or 3 weeks through, most of October, Saturn and Uranus will be almost at an exact square. I mean, they already are, pretty much squaring each other. But during that period of time, starting on September 30th, they'll both be at 18. Well, they'll both be in the same degree number. So they'll be the closest they're going to get to squaring each other for a long time. And that square, people are describing it in many different ways, but for me, what it really feels like is this opportunity for these energies to work together. So the energies are Saturn, which for me is about the yin wise being that is each of us, or that is in existence, that energy of being the energy that wisely, on a deep wise level, knows exactly the kind of holding that we need in every moment and can subtly change and flow with our needs. So it's again a yin energy that is holding us and giving us the structure that we need. And then the Uranus energy, for me, is an energy that brings us back purely into the intelligence of the divine that is us, right? So it can be, the Uranian energy can be an energy that people talk about as being very quick and fast and kind of scary, because it's like a lightning bolt that can shock you and then something is immediately changed. And that I've definitely experienced that aspect of Uranian energy for sure. But when you're talking about that, those golden leaves falling, what it's reminding me of is that when I have been channeling lately, what the spirit world keeps saying is that this Uranian energy isn't scary. We don't need to be scared of it, because literally all it is an energy that brings us back to what we already are, which is the divine. So, I mean, not that there's no way that that's going to be jarring for us. I mean, I think that in reality it is, but sometimes it can be. But the real essence of both of these energies is like an epitome of gentleness, you know, just bringing us right back into home and gently holding us in a way that allows us to come back into that place of home, you know, ourselves as the divine. So
it's beautiful, Martha. And what comes up for me as you're relating that is the card that I pulled prior to us doing this interview this morning, the angel card, and it said opportunity, you know, and opportunity. Life is happening for us, not to us, right? And like you said, even though there's these different energies that have these different qualities, ultimately, it's all happening to move us into the remembrance of who we are. Even those shocking moments, I'm guessing that everyone that's listening today has had a moment where they thought, this is the worst thing that could possibly happen. But in retrospect, when you get out of it and you look back, it's like, actually, that was an incredible growth point for me. And the whole movement of this loving, gentle, unconditional, mothering field that we're dancing in is moving us forward towards our own awakening, towards our own remembering, like you were saying, the remembrance of how powerful we are as creators and creatrixes, you know, just we are the divine. We are nothing less than the divine. And we have a bit of spiritual amnesia, you know, we a lot of lifetimes of habits and patterns of separation. Yeah, I love that you're bringing in that quality of, yes, it might be shocking, and yes, it might be a little jarring, but at the same time, it's an opportunity. Everything's an opportunity for us to turn in, connect with our center, connect with our basic goodness. And if there are some of people on the call right now who are saying they're having a hard time connecting with their basic goodness, just know that any moment a flicker of generosity comes through, a flicker of kindness. If maybe you see someone with groceries and they're struggling with the door and you open the door, that's your basic goodness. It's not something esoteric. It's like it shines through all throughout your day. You know, even if you feel like you don't know love, if you have a pet and you love your pet, this is your basic goodness shining through. This is your love. This is your compassion. So we all have it. And I love what you're saying about the gentleness too, because I think that's really important to talk about in regards to untying the knots that bind you, because sometimes we can get into an attitude of like, well, there's something wrong with me, or I'm not doing it right, or everybody else is getting along on the path and I'm still struggling with this thing. And I just want to name that there's nothing wrong with you. And these, again, back to there's so much support and so much help from the angels and the archangels, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, the awakened beings, to hold us as we begin to name and release these places that have been, you know, a hard place for us, a struggle. And you are held. You are held in divine love, and you don't have to figure it out all alone. I think that's another part of this time that we're moving into, is that not only support from angels and archangels, but community, you know, where everyone's finding their tribe, everyone's finding or yearning to find that sangha. In the Buddhist tradition, we call it sangha, your spiritual brothers and sisters who are on the path with you, who are there to, we're here to support each other and to help each other, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And again, I've been speaking about this a lot, and I actually just wrote a sub-chapter. I just wrote a new book a couple weeks ago, a short new book. And one of the sub-chapters of that book talks about Saturn as yin. And this has been coming up so much. So I just feel like I want to touch on it a little bit, because it's so related to what you're saying. But as you and I have talked about, there's this idea in our world of authority being pretty tied to a patriarchal image of what authority is. And so I think that has so many layers to it, right? And it's not that simplistic, but for simplicity's sake, I'll just name it that way. But I think that when we typically feel maybe a knot in us, if we're even able to be conscious that that exists, I think a lot of the time our tendency, kind of like what you said, is that we would want to like yank on it, or like there's a voice in our mind that just get rid of it, or I don't know, it's a kind of more intense, not necessarily aggressive, but it can be aggressive, critical energy that might come through us around our own relationship to ourselves even. And so for me, there's this incredibly strong need in my own life, but I feel like in our world, when I've sat with clients over many, many, many years, you know, in social work also, I'm thinking of all of the thousands of people I've worked with for decades, right? But including now in the spiritual work that I do, if I could do one thing for people in general, that thing probably would be to help us switch our thinking about authority from this intense critical voice to that soft yin inner wise elder being that is natural to who we all are. And so if I'm even just thinking about this, untying the knots that bind, you know, it's yanking on a knot doesn't work. It makes it
it much tighter.
Yeah, not helpful.
Yeah.
Right. So then just switching into that mode of, oh, okay, there's a way to hold myself here that's actually gentle, sometimes maybe firm, yet still gentle and loving and caring. And that will start to allow
Yeah.
that knot to
Yeah.
do whatever it needs to do to let go. And
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it reminds me of the work that Sultra Malioni, who's a a huge Dharma teacher, excuse me. You know, she does this work called Feeding Your Demons.
Mhm.
And it's a very different take. It's the feminine approach to work. The demons are like your knots, your hard places, your challenges, your beliefs that limit you. And instead of going and slashing and burning and fighting with the demons, you actually go through a process where you're in a dialogue with that part of yourself that's like, well, what do you need? And then you begin to feed it from this infinite source of whatever it needs, and ultimately it transforms into your ally, which really aligns with the Buddhist principle of that all of our afflictive emotions, our neurotic behaviors have their basis in wisdom. They're just a like kind of an offshoot, and because we're not kind of aligned with the wisdom, they're manifesting as, you know, for instance, desire, or let's say, let me think of anger. In the Buddhist tradition that I'm part of, the wisdom underneath anger is mirror-like clarity, right? So there's a transformational process, and that was something else I really wanted to bring in as in regards to the workshop that we're doing. Is if there was one thing, like you were saying, if there's one thing that you wanted to get through, if there's one thing I would want to get through, is people, it's all workable. It's not as solid and fixed as you think. There's a lot of room for transformation of physical issues, of emotional issues, of mental, whatever it is. I mean, from a quantum physics viewpoint, it's all space. You know, it looks really solid, but ultimately there's a lot of room for shifting and moving and restoring and remembering and recreating a new scenario, a new story, a new reality. And be gentle.
Yeah.
Be gentle, be gentle, be gentle,
Yes.
be gentle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my prayer for anyone who's listening to this, is as you move into identifying, naming, honoring, and releasing whatever it is that no longer serves you, whether it's a knot, whatever it is, be gentle. You haven't done anything wrong, and a lot of these issues, they come down the pipeline, the ancestral pipeline. So you may even be dealing with a knot that didn't begin with you. And as Martha and I were speaking before this call, many of us who are born now at this time and who are doing this level of work are healing a cross-generational and intergenerational wound that, when the healing happens, is going to ripple backwards and forwards. It's going to heal our ancestors as well as make a path clear for 7 generations to come, you know. So it's honorable work, it's beautiful work, and we can approach it with a kind of gentleness that prior to this time, and it's a new meme. It comes, its roots are in the emergence, the re-emergence of a feminine way to be in relationship to struggle, to pain, to suffering. It's not about taking the sword out and cutting through. Sometimes, you know, there is a moment where you may find a repetitive thought that's coming up in your mind, and it's like, no, no. You know, and so I'm not saying it's just about cozying up. Sometimes there is a strength, but it's not violent. It's not aggressive. It may be strong. And like I feel as I do this, my body goes upright. I'm in my strength and my power, saying, not right now. I have other things to do. You know, when a critical voice comes in and wants to keep you from doing something that feels heartfelt, and it's an old pattern. So there's that too. I don't want to dismiss that there are moments where we can be strong, but when you're in that place of vulnerability where you're really tapping something that's very core and maybe um, a pattern that has some identity around it, because we can also have identity around certain patterns, like for instance being a victim, that can get into really tender areas. So be gentle with that part, be gentle with the knot, or the the aspect of your being that might feel frightened or
Mm,
scared. We need to approach it with a gentleness.
yeah, beautiful. I feel like there's so many, things that I could say or we could say. We could go on and on and on. What I'm feeling called to do, but you can jump in if you feel something else, is just to name a little bit more about what this workshop is going to be, and
Mhm.
then let you go into the guided or
Yeah.
the sound healing sort of mini
Yeah.
moment that we're going to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that feel
That feels good. Yeah.
okay? Great. So yeah, so this conversation is really, like I said, a precursor to this workshop we're going to be holding, and um, the intention of that workshop, which will be on October 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific, is essentially what we've just been talking about. And you can also say what your intention with it is. But my intention, I think both of our intention, is for anyone listening to this, or anybody out there who is wanting to really drop into that place of feeling held, of feeling in your body and in your being that it is okay to let go, and to feel supported in doing that, to feel supported by the energetic of Barbara, the energetic of me, but then also the energetic of whatever spirit world beings come in to support us all in that moment. It will be a combination of me channeling, Barbara holding space, Barbara doing sound healing. I'm sure Barbara channeling in your own way, because you do too. Just, I don't think you name it that. But anyway, the spirit world will be there guiding us in whatever
Mm.
it is that we are called to do to hold this space. But the purpose of it is to really give an intentional, safe place for you to have this experience of deeply letting go, letting these knots release in whatever way is right for you, and yeah, to continue on your healing path. And it'll be recorded, so you could have this, you could listen to it repeatedly. And
Mhm.
anything else you want to say about that?
No, I think that's really clear. And yeah, my intention, as always, is to just hold a safe and loving space in which, with the sound healing portion of it, the basic principle of sound healing is intention plus sound or frequency creates the possibility for transformation and change. And that will be my intention, is to create a sonic, I mean, also speaking as well, like I have today, but then there will be a portion of it where create a sonic space where you can drop into what's often termed the still point, and the change and shift starts to happen on its own. It's a non-doing place.
Yeah.
The only thing you might want to do prior to, if you feel called and you feel resonant to come and join us for this workshop, is let your mind be open to what intention might be what you want to bring in. Sit with it in the next couple of weeks and just let spirit guide you into what is your intention. And it might be an intention for some quality to come into your life that you would like to experience more of. It might be, like we've been talking about this last hour, about something you're ready to release, to let go of. It might be a combination of both of those, but do some prayer and sitting with it over the next couple of weeks and feel into what's really true for you. Don't
Mhm.
make it a should. Well, I should be wanting more of this. It's like drop into your heart and
Mhm.
really deeply listen to, if I could use this experience to really help support me on my path, what would that be for me? What would that intention be? So I just offer that as something, that you could be kind of really sitting with in the next couple of weeks.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do now is just a little taste of sound. And again, I just encourage you, if you want to lie down right now, if you want to just lean back in your chair and close your eyes. And again, just in this moment, as I begin to bring in some sound, to just consider, drop into your heart, feel into what's present for you right now. Having listened to our conversation, what did it bring up for you? Is there something in this moment that you feel like you're ready to release, to let go of? Be gentle, be gentle, be gentle with yourself. Be gentle, be gentle, be gentle with yourself. Be gentle, be gentle, be gentle with yourself. Be gentle, be gentle, be gentle with yourself, with yourself, with yourself. And take your time connecting with your breath. Feeling your body. And just stay connected as you begin to bring your awareness back to the call. Stay connected with your inner experience. And if images arose for you during this meditation, colors, words, if it didn't, that's fine. But if they did, you might want to journal after this call and just, that's your own wisdom shining through, speaking to you. And know that you are divine. You are perfect. You are beautiful, just as you are. And thank you all so much for joining today. And for those of you who feel the call, Martha and I will happily greet you again on the 12th of October and look forward to sharing more. Thank you.
That felt so good. I didn't want you to stop.
I know.
Yeah. And the only thing I feel maybe like I want to say is as I was in that space, I felt this like big golden light with my heart, and then I felt angels here, and I felt how I'm not sure if it's anyway, it's just so there's this connection of the sound helping us connect with the beings.
Yes, the beings are frequencies.
Yeah. There we
Right?
go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so as the sound comes in and all these overtones
Mm-hmm.
are dancing with each other within the frequencies, yeah, it's like speed dial. Say, we're here. We're open. Please
Yeah.
come. It's
I
an
have
invitation. It's an invitation,
mhm.
right? Yeah.
I have very specific music that I put on when I'm channeling
Mm-hmm.
because it's like it takes, I think it's like a radio dial.
Mm-hmm.
I can do it without it if I had to, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
instantaneous. It just goes zip, zip
Yeah. Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I've done that. And for this was a little different. It was a different radio station. It was like
Yeah.
a tuning in this way, and then these beings were here.
Mm-hmm.
My job wasn't to be channeling, so it was a different need. It was more about me feeling in connection with them and just feeling that healing remembering of them and them, I don't know, us being in this loving kind of resonance space with each other.
Yeah.
Anyway, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a delight, as always. It's a delight.
Great. Yeah, so I'm in a different space, so I'm like, wait, practical
I
thinking.
know, right? This is, and I think this is something I really want to just name in presence right here, is that was just a little mini, and typically one of my teachers, one of my mentors, Tito La Rosas, he's a Peruvian shaman sound healer from down in the Andes, and he says el regresar es más importante. The return is very important. So for any of you who feel like you're still in a state, like Martha's saying, I'm not, sound drops you out of the conceptual mind immediately. And so take time, even in this short little experience that you've had here, take time to let yourself come back into kind of what I would say ordinary consciousness, because sound also opens up portals of consciousness. And make sure that if you're about to go out into a busy world, if you're about to get in a car, make sure you're really grounded, like breathe, place your feet squarely on the ground, feel your connection with the earth. Super important. We don't want anyone to get hurt when they go into it's a very different speed of what we've just experienced in this last hour. We've just dropped things down, 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 and even ending with the sound, it's like you're taking it down to a very much slower speed than our busy world. And so it's kind of like meshing gears, right? You just need to make time and take time to make sure that you're fully embodied again in down in the ground, very important.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I will not get in a car in the next 5 minutes. Yeah. But on a practical level, I will put the link for signing up for the workshop with this video. And what would you like to share about how to reach you? And
I would say the best way to reach me is through my website, which is barbarajuniper.com. If you're interested in doing any spiritual mentoring work or sound healing work, if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, I have my office open in San Rafael, and I'm seeing people in person. I do individual sessions as well as group sessions. I haven't done a group session in a while, but those come up from time to time, and you can contact me through my website. My email is there, and I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to support you if you feel you'd want to be supported. What I find too is that the combination of working with spiritual mentoring and sound healing is just that the marriage of those two is so powerful to help with transformation on the path.
yeah,
It's a beautiful, beautiful combination. Yeah.
I highly
And I was also thinking, I also lead a Monday night meditation through Sukhasiddhi Foundation that's free every Monday night. You can go on to sukhasiddhi.org, which is SUKHASIDDHI, sukhasiddhi.org, and look for Opening the Gate. That's a meditation group that I lead. It's for beginners or longtime practitioners. It's just a way to come together in community to meditate together and talk about the Dharma a bit.
Yeah, I can put that link too. And I'm at livingtheonelight.com. Yeah, I highly recommend Barbara. So we have known each other now for multiple years, and it's consistent that you have incredibly high integrity and wisdom, and you're such a good human, and I'm so grateful to know you and all of that, all of the above. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Martha, and thank you all for coming